The Upturned is a very strange combination of silent atmospheric walks through shadowy areas and cartoony Scooby-Doo chase scenes. The premise of the game is that you've just died and entered the afterlife. After walking around for a bit, you stumble upon this enormous hotel where you meet this silly little character. His name is Ick, and I love him. He's the receptionist for the Upturned Inn and lets you know that you already have a room booked on the 1434th floor. Hey, is that an elevator in a horror game? I'm sure this thing is state-of-the-art. Oh shit. It's at this point the central gameplay loop is introduced. Your elevator crashes, it calls you to be the most lovable character of all time, and then you proceed to whatever floor you're dropped off on. Since the elevator is constantly breaking down, you need to find a fuse on each level to fix it, which will generally involve you trying to solve a puzzle or platforming section. The Upturned is a very slow build with the intensity of the levels. The lower floors will have little to no enemies teaching you the basics of the game, but eventually you'll run into your first little goblin man. Coincidentally, this is around the same time you realize you can just fucking the enemies in this game. Now you might think being able to WrestleMania chair throw enemies to death can take away from the horror tones of the game, and you wouldn't be entirely wrong. But almost as soon as you begin to rely on this feature to get through levels, they rip it away from you by introducing even stronger enemies that can just run you down. As the floors get higher and higher, they get more complex and difficult. You'll have to navigate through a maze of tunnels or an abandoned town. Really makes you wonder how they're fitting all that shit in one hotel. One thing I should prepare you for is that the jump mechanics in this game are shocking. You jump like you have bricks tied to your feet. It's an important thing to note because platforming is a decent section of the game, especially as maps get larger and larger. Though this is usually supplemented by introducing springs, wind gusts, conveyor belts, and bird hat. Something the Upturn does exceptionally well is hitting you with that what if feeling. The first big question is, what if we make it to floor 1434? Supposedly that's the one meant for us, but it seems like most of the floors are filled with crackheads and other not-so-friendly creatures. So what could possibly be waiting for us there? Then this mysterious character begins calling you. He casts doubt on whether or not Ick is really looking out for your best interests, and even warns you of future dangers to come. It becomes a bit difficult to tell who your actual ally is and who you should trust. And then there's this cute little dog lizard named Shrimp, who wouldn't hurt a soul in the world, that Ick is coincidentally horribly afraid of and kept in captivity. But hey, just look at him. Is that the face of a killer? Also, throughout the story, Ick will call you to update you about your cause of death, which you seem to have forgotten. He also recounts the major historical events and tragedies that happened before and after your death. So by now you may be wondering what type of horror game this is. Is it more of an atmospheric creepy game or a JPEG jump scare simulator that just exists to get a bit of neuron activation in your low attention span zoomer ADHD brain? Sorry, that was mean. Honestly, it's a bit of both. While they don't particularly try to set up artificial jump scares, the way the enemies are coded, they end up just getting you. They'll get you a little bit. Now, I should mention at this point in the video that I am really bad at puzzle games. There's something inside of me that just naturally wants to brute force its way through every issue I find in a game for some reason. That being said, I was able to beat every puzzle in the Upturned without looking up the solution. Sometimes you can get a little bit stuck, but in the end the goal will always be to find a key and then a fuse, which you usually get to by hitting one of these switches by throwing an item. If you've made it this far in the video, you might have noticed that the Upturned shares quite a few similarities to another game that went viral a few months ago, Lethal Company. This is because they were actually made by the same person, Zeekers. They seem to have a sort of knack for mixing together horror and comedy. While similar in tone, the Upturned is a much more streamlined experience, and many of the gags come through ridiculous dialogue options or cutscenes. It's the only horror game I can think of that forces you into a bar fight with the main enemy. I'm usually not a big horror game fanatic. I don't really get anything out of being Freddy Fazbear or having the same low quality sound cue play whenever I enter a room. But a good game is a good game, and the Upturned is damn fun. In total, it'll probably take you about 6 and 7 hours to beat, so if the game sounds interesting to you, it's buyable on Steam for about $12. Also, I've been playing the soundtrack throughout this video because it's catchy as fuck, and there are 34 different songs despite it being such a short game. Thanks for 160,000 views on that one video and 3.9 thousand subscribers. It's probably even more by the time this video comes out, but I very much appreciate it. More content to come at a similar pace, hopefully. See you.